Swadika, very good evening and welcome back to our special edition of Thai PBS World. Tonight we are following the big protest by student-led protesters.
After having occupied the campus of Thammasat University for about 2 and 3 hours, the protesters decided to move their rally site to Sanam Luang, which is right across the campus of the university. And at the moment, we have learned that the protesters seem to be sort of having some sort of issue with the police who are trying to make sure that they keep a distance from the Royal Grand Palace, which is just a short distance from where the rally is.
And today, in addition to student groups from various universities, we also see different groups from civil society, academics and human rights groups joining the protest today as well. And what's the latest over there at Sanam Luang area? We are going to get the report from Kun Nattha, who is now at Sanam Luang area, our correspondent of the Thai PBS World.
Okay, we're still waiting for a connection with Kun Donjana. Okay, all right, she is ready. All right, Kun Donjana, so what is going on?
And right now, the protesters have moved from Thammasat University to Sanam Luang area. And as you can see, right now there are tons of people joining the demonstrations today. And almost half of the Sanam Luang area have been packed with anti-government protesters. And as previously reported, the protesters range from university students, high school students, as well as people from the older generation. And where I'm standing right here around this Sanam Luang area has turned into a walking street as well. And even places around Sanam Luang, there are also tons of people walking around. The demonstrations so far have been peaceful. However, there was a moment around 4 p.m. in the afternoon where protesters stood up, shouted, and flashed their three-finger salute when the Royal Thai police truck was in the way during the rally. But a few moments later, the police decided to remove all barricades of the Sanam Luang area, as well as the police truck decided to move out of the area, causing a lot of cheer from the demonstrators. The actual stage for Sanam Luang started around 5:30 p.m. in the afternoon, where some of the speakers already expressed their demands on stage with all the protesters cheering and flashing their salutes. Most of the speakers on stage today expressed their anger against the dictatorship as well as the economic issues in the country. And for those who've just joined our coverage this afternoon, the protesters managed to break into Thammasat University, despite that the university has decided to close off the area during this weekend. The protesters, led by student activists Rung Panasaya and Mai Panupong, took over the football stadium, along with tons of supporters who joined and flashed their three-finger salute despite the rain. Most of the speakers on stage also heavily criticized the government as well as demanded the democracy for the people. And that is the latest for the student demonstrations at Sanam Luang right now.
Some of the student protesters or young people, what's their concern or what they would like to push forward for today?
Most of the young students that joined the demonstrations today, they actually felt that they should reform the government as well as the economic issues here. And what is interesting for the younger students, especially high school students, they felt that the reform in the education system is the biggest priority because they felt that they do not have enough freedom at school, and they felt that there is some sort of dictatorship in the system as well.
And as far as you could see, are those young students, high school students, do they come with their parents?
Some of them came by themselves, but Well, based on my observation, some people came with their grandparents as well, but based on my observation, some of them are highly influenced by their grandparents, their parents with their political views.
And what about other groups of protesters? Are they like representative from civil society groups, academic or human rights groups? Have you met those people?
I haven't really met those people, but I have met some of the protesters who used to join the red shirt movement. So they heavily criticized the current government, and they felt that this government really needs to change.
And what would come up more tonight on the stage?
Based on my observation, there will still be a lot of speakers coming at Sanam Luang tonight, and based on what has been circulated on social media, but during the 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. there might be some sort of surprise announcement, so we will see what is going to happen during that time.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Kun Nat, for your report.
So as we know that the protest leaders are holding the so-called big surprise for later tonight,
Yes.
when they will certainly read out a sort of a statement to make clear what they want from this protest. But as Kun Nat just mentioned, that now the protest is being joined by people from diverse backgrounds, because the whole protest movement started off as student-led, right? Mostly university students. But as the days went on, more and more people from different backgrounds have started to join the activities. And
Yeah.
as it's quite clear today that not only students that are taking a leading role in today's rally, we have seen people representing various group of professions,
Yes.
NGOs, academics that are taking part in this rally.
Yeah.
But was the most visible of all members of the so-called red shirt movement,
Yes.
that used to play a very critical role in politics in the past, before the coup d'etat back in 2014. And these people, in fact, were seen as being among the most prominent of the people who broke into the campus, the Thammasat campus this morning, when the negotiations for the gate to open failed. And in fact, they were at the forefront of the protesters who marched into the campus.
Yeah. And to get a glimpse of the whole day development of the protest, now let's take a look at the key moment at about 12 o'clock in front of the gate at Thammasat University. And this is what our team has compiled for the timeline of today's rally. You could see that the key moment is at around noontime, when protesters are able to enter Thammasat University campus. And then nearly 12:30, the protesters prepare to settle down on the university ground. And then at 1:40, protesters break Thepchai gates. And about 2:20, Metropole closes the roads around the protest area. And then at 3:15, police officials ask the protesters to leave Sanam Luang. And at 4:15, crowd tells the police to leave Sanam Luang and pushing them back. And about 4:20, the police removes all barricades off Sanam Luang ground. And at nearly 4:30, the crowd is still flocking in Sanam Luang despite warning from the police. So that's the brief development of today's afternoon. The key moment is at about noontime, Kun Thepchai, when a group of protesters led by Kun Rung Panasaya tried to break into the campus of Thammasat University. So let's take a look at the key moment today when the protesters try to get into Thammasat University.
As we all know that the administration of the university refused to allow the campus to be used as a rally site. So this is what happened around noon today, when the protesters tried to break into the campus, and they finally succeeded without resistance from the officials of the university. So they simply just removed the keys and then marched into the campus. And leading the first group of protesters into the campus is Panupong Jatnok and Panasaya Siddhi Jirawatanakun, two of the protest leaders.
That's the key moment when they try to negotiate for police officer, for the security guard in the university campus to open the gate, but they didn't allow them to do so easily. So finally they have to shake the gates and flock into Thammasat University campus.
There were some conflicting reports initially whether or not the security guards or the university officials deliberately allowed the protesters to go into the campus. But later it was clear from the pictures we have seen that it was the protesters who removed the keys with the pliers before they marched into the campus.
It was quite a big debate and quite sensational in social media, Kun Thepchai, because for protest supporters, they tried to argue that they didn't break the gate at all, and police officer allowed them to go into the campus quite easily. But from the footage that we could see, they quite shake the gate quite heavily.
They used pliers to cut off the chains and then move into the campus. So in fact, that the original plans of the protester was to occupy the campus for today and overnight before moving to the government house or some other destination the next morning. But later in the afternoon, after having occupied the campus for only about 2 hours, they decided to move to Sanam Luang, which is only across the street from the campus. And there was a tense moment between the protester and the police, who tried very hard to convince them to leave the Sanam Luang compound, which is considered legally as royal compound, which is supposed to be off limits to all kinds of political activities. But of course the protesters resisted, and the police themselves had to retreat.
And police officers right now try to protect the area in front of the Grand Palace, and they said they couldn't allow the protesters to approach nearer than 150 meters, just right before the Grand Palace. But one more of our correspondent, Kun Kittipat Chun Sukjit, is now in Sanam Luang area, and he also has more development for us. So let's go to Kun Kittipat in Sanam Luang area. So Kun Kittipat, it seems very dark over there. What more can you tell us from where you are at the moment?
Good evening, Kun Thepchai and Kun Nattha. Right now it's raining quite heavy at the protest as the impact of the Yong tropical storm. So my right-hand side right now is the Sanam Luang area, and the left-hand side is Pamatarani, or the Mother Earth. So a lot of people flocked into the Sanam Luang area to participate in the main stage of the demonstration, with mostly of them smile and look so happy as they hope that the government is going to listen to their voice. But beside the main stage at Sanam Luang, many protesters also flocked into the Pamatarani area also, as there is the activity organized by the Internet Law Reform Dialogue, or ILAW, a Thai human rights NGO. ILAW is opening the station aiming to list at least 50,000 names to call for the reforming of the constitution. This is also one of the highlight activities at the demonstration. ILAW has participated in every anti-government protest and always support the constitution's amendments. I've talked to ILAW officer about the origin of this activity of the station. So let's hear his voice in the name of people.
So according to the to this present constitution, the citizen who have the right to vote can gathering 50,000 signatures to propose the amendment of the constitution, and that's what we doing. because the constitution that promulgated in the years 2017, there are many problems. So for example, we have 100% appointed senator that appointed by the military, and this Senate, they can vote for the Prime Minister. So that are one thing, that one of the problems that we propose to be amended. And also, this present constitution is the going backward in the sense that it allows anyone who are not run election by themselves to become a Prime Minister. Actually, right now, both the government party and the opposition party are proposed the draft constitution. But in those drafts, they only amend the section that related to constitutional amendment, but they did not do anything about the appointed senator. They did not do anything about the prime minister that did not come from election. We need to make sure before we draft the new constitution, we need to have the environment that are more friendly to democracy. So that's what we are proposing. We start this campaign since 7th of August, and up until now we have about more than 83,000 Thai citizens that signed this petition to propose this draft constitution. So what we are doing next, on the 22nd, in the next few days, we will bring all the signature to the parliament to propose to the member of the.
So tonight at 9 p.m., the station of ILO will be closed. It is the last day of the station from ILO. And I have also talked to some of the protesters. Some of them say that another benefit of this protest is there are many street vendors here come to sell their products. So in other way, it can help boosting the Thai economy also.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kun Kittipat, for your report from Sanam Luang.
Okay, so ILO has been working very hard to drum up support
Thank you very much,
from the public, right, to have the constitution amended.
Yes.
And ILO, of course, is a leading non-governmental organization that works on the issue of democracy and human rights.
Yeah.
And of course, and the agency is offering full support to the ongoing protest.
Yeah, it's their main mission to compile all the name list at least for 70,000, and they seem to be quite certain that they can get about 80,000 names to propose for amending constitution. And to try to get the glimpse and understand the insight from the protest today, right now we have Dr. Ekapan Pintawanit, Acting Director at Mahidol University's Institute of Human Rights and Peace Studies, joining us live in the studio. Sawadee-ka. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
And you are just back from the rally site in Thammasat and Sanam Luang. Can you tell us what really happening?
I'm not back. I have to. I will
Go back again.
just
Go back for the big surprise the students have promised, right?
I hope that it's not that much of a surprise.
Surprise, but shouldn't be too big.
Not too surprised.
So how do you read the ongoing activities?
The days I have been there since the early afternoon today, and it has the general atmosphere is really, for me, it's really friendly and pretty organized, and that makes how you call it, a very strong statement that the organizer of this demonstration is really keen on making smooth the demonstration, and then there are many things that have been how you call it, have been really planned, right? And the security issues is not to be worried at this point.
But were you surprised that after having made a big issue out of wanting to use Thammasat campus for the rally site, and after having occupied the campus for only 2 hours, the students decided to leave the campus and go across the street to Sanam Luang instead?
It's not bringing me to surprise that the changing of the demonstration site from Thammasat University to Sanam Luang. I used to mention about the security issue in Thammasat University, which is actually would be a little bit more secured than the open space of Sanam Luang. But to look into the number of the demonstration, number of the participants today, the area of Thammasat University would be a little bit too small. So then that could be one of the reasons why they move out from Thammasat University. And of course, like we have heard a bit earlier that there are some intention to really organize the demonstration at Sanam Luang. So that's not very surprised that, and of course, like with that number of the participants, Sanam Luang is a kind of good demonstration site.
So you think it's largely the question of the logistics, right?
Logistics is one of the issues, but of course, like to be able to bring people back to Sanam Luang is another stepping stone because Sanam Luang has been closed for renovation for some times, and Sanam Luang used to be the landmark for the demonstration in several occasions earlier, and then if people can right now use Sanam Luang as the demonstration site, so it's a kind of stepping stone that to express that people would have free rights in order to participate in the
because some people read this as a sending of some kind of message, because as you all know, that Sanam Luang has been classified as a royal compound, right?
In the past, yes.
In the past, yeah. But the students insist on having Sanam Luang as a site of the rally. Then it's a kind of message to show that they are serious about pushing for changes at all levels.
The thing is, like the significant meaning of occupying Sanam Luang would have certain relative to the rights of people in using the area. The thing is, like today, I was very surprised that somebody was playing kite at Sanam Luang. It reminds me of sometimes earlier when I was young, that every summer people will go there and play kites. So I think it is the first time in so many years that I saw the kites flying over the Sanam Luang again. So Sanam Luang has not been preservedly used for the royal family in several periods or decades. If you remember that we used to have
Sunday market,
or like even selling books or it has been used in several occasions.
That's
and then, but of course, like in the past few years, it has been closed for the fixing, and then right now, I think it's a kind of stepping stone to be able to use it again.
And today we see a group of red shirts joining student-led protest.
Yeah.
What's the implication of this? Does it mean that they will expand the coalition?
The thing is, like the principle of demonstration is to call for more alliance. Right. So then, if there are more groups of people participating in the demonstration, means that they can call for those who might share the same principle and comes out and join as the alliance. So then, I don't see any significant points that could be pointing out to the negative impact of it. I think it is like very simple.
So you don't think it would dilute the image of the movement being student-led and have no sort of a political motive?
The thing is, like we can see that there are a lot of student groups organized in several universities in Bangkok and in the up countries. So we can see that each group also has certain intention or demand or some kind of required. But in this kind of mass demonstration, it is difficult to limit the classification or classification of the participants. So then whoever wants to join can join.
And it seems that the leader keeps telling us that just wait for a big surprise,
Yeah.
and probably it's coming up at 9 o'clock. What's your speculation of this, and what will it mean for the protest?
And how surprised would be?
How surprised? I think the surprise would be, this is just only purely guess without without any sufficient information.
Not even inside information.
No information at all. So I think it's going to be some kind of demand that could be substantive, because like in the demonstration, there always some demand that's substantive, and of course there are some dynamic of this the political movement right now. I wish that this surprise is a kind of very constructive and substantive demand that can move our country forward.
As you know, that the Prime Minister has been saying that the students can demonstrate, it's okay, it's an expression of their political rights, but don't cross the line, right? Okay. And then yesterday he said that don't do anything inappropriate. Of course, you know what he means by that. So you think this warning have any bearing on the students?
The thing is like, I think people are quite mature in knowing what they are doing. So, but the thing is like when we talk about crossing the line, if I assume that I understand the Prime Minister, it would be related to the criticism of the monarchy or the monarch. So that's why I have been emphasized very often that we have to separate between discussing about the monarch and or the monarchy. The monarchy as the institution, the most important institution of Thailand, and then the monarchy itself also plays the most important roles in using the power in all kinds in Thailand. So we can discuss about the role of the monarchy, and I don't think that there are anything wrong about discussing the structure of the monarchy. But when we talk about the monarch, he and certain people are protected or immune with certain law. So then you have to understand that the line is the law, and that law is still justifiable because even for people like us, we are so immune for some false accusation. So then to make any false accusation, everyone in this country is immune.
But looking back to hear the 10-point manifesto on the 10th of August, of course it draw support and draw criticism at the same time to Kun Rung Panasaya who raised the demand on the stage. From then until now, what do you see the change in Thai society or response in Thai society?
The thing is like the 10 demand that was announced a month ago. If we look into the constructive of those demand, there are some possibility of amending those laws regarding those demands, but it needs to be done through a systematic way, which means that, of course, like if you want to make any changes in those according to those 10 demands, so then we still have to go back to the Constitution amendment, and at certain point, if you want to draft the new Constitution, so then we can discuss about all those issues in the process of drafting the Constitution. So, so just to request alone would not make any change. We have to consider about what kind of the system, the channel of in this structure in order to reach the point. But the thing is, like, why I'm trying to talk about the systematic way, because this kind of issue is not it's not agreed upon for the people in the whole society. So which means that we need to have the room for the discussion, for those who support and for those who are against those ideas. So then this kind of discussion needs this process and time.
And you believe that there's a much bigger space now for discussion on this very sensitive issue, much bigger than before.
The thing is like it depends on time and space. The thing is like at this point we might be reaching the point where there might be some platforms that will accommodate this kind of discussion.
No, but as far as the ongoing rally at Sanam Luang is concerned,
Yeah.
we are certain that this so-called 10-point manifesto will be raised again tonight and could be part of the big surprise that they have promised, right? But as we have said that the message itself is not a problem, but how the message will be delivered tonight may be the problem. Do you think that the student leaders will choose to be provocative in order to draw response?
I believe that provocation is not the way to make agreement among those who think differently. So provocation might lead into more frustration among several groups. So then if I could suggest to them, I would not suggest them to make the provocation because it leads into it leads into roadblock.
So the message is surprise, yes, but not too big a surprise.
That's why I hope that that surprise would be a kind of constructive way of the solutions and all this. And then I wish that some surprise, this surprise would lead for us to get into the windows of opportunity that our country can move on.
Yeah, so let's hope for a constructive surprise.
I hope.
But obviously for the clash between young people and older generation who are not on the same page, especially on monarchy and calling for reform of the monarchy. In your perception, what's the risk that this may lead to violence? Do you still think that this can contain risk?
The thing is like the risk of violence is always there. I mean, when we have the controversy, but it doesn't mean that we cannot prevent those violence. The thing is like when we look into the different of the generations, even it was very funny today because like my former boss was there in the demonstration site, and also one of my assistants and one of my students. So we took a photo and said, okay, we have several generations here, and of course, like we might think differently in terms of the approaches, but of course, like we are really looking for the democratic society. So I think that when we have the different generations, of course, like we always have a kind of misunderstanding and difficult way of communication. The thing is like the way that the older generation would be addressing to the younger generation. I wish that there might be some space that they can exchange their different points of view, and just like look for an example in the family. We have so many affiliations, right? And I heard that many of the high school students, like those they call bad students, right now they are facing a problem fighting with their parents. The thing is like if you look back into the relationship in our family, we have other affiliations apart from political points of view. We still father, we still mother, we are the uncle, we are the brothers, we are sisters. And then I think to keep on and hold the value of those affiliations is as important as trying to understand the different points of view in the political arena. So then the most easiest way to address the problem of the different generations is to look back into certain important value of the affiliations of other affiliations that we have.
So as a peace advocate, how do you think this whole thing should be settled to avoid the possibility of confrontation and violence, especially on the part of the powers that be?
The thing is like it is unavoidable to discuss about this issue because otherwise it's going to be how you call that the dust under the carpet again. But there were always the best ways to address the conflict issues is to put it on the table and provide a space and platform in order to discuss on that. The thing is like to discuss the role of the monarch. We are very different. Yesterday I was talking about these groups of the students. They just only back into the 2014 coup. They were 14, 15.
Too young to really understand what was going on then.
But the thing is like the experience that they have under the Prayut government tell them that this is a kind of thing that they don't want to do. Even look into those high school students. They was 8 years old, I think, like 8 or 9 years old by the time that Prayut came into the power the first time. But the thing is like there are some few to run this kind of emotion against Prayut. For example, like when you talk about like how you got at 12th Amendment, right? That those kids have to talk all the times, right? The motto, and then they experience that what they have to read and remember these 12 motto things is totally contradict with what had happened. When they talk about how you call that, loyal to the country or uncorrupted politician or things like that. But you know, in the past 7 years, there's a lot of unspeakable intention of corruption, all the time, talking about the watchers, talking about, like those who are becoming into the power without any transparency and accountability.
So it's kind of disillusion among this young generation of people.
That's right. Because like when we talk about the value of new generation, we always talk about like something that they can imagine about. But if they found that their imaginable truth is totally different than the fact that they are experienced every day. So that's the feud to gear up this kind of negative feeling over the dictator government.
And probably young protesters, especially the leaders, would like us to listen to them, like really listen to understand their point and their mission. And I'd like both of you to see this report with our audience to get to know young protesters, what's their mission and what they would like to achieve from coming out in the protest.
On August 16th, an anti-government demonstration was held on Rajadamnern Road at the Democracy Monument. It was the first in the 6 years since the last coup. Thatchai Rirengpaphai-Kittseri, newly graduated from the Political Science Faculty of Chulalongkorn University, is one of the young activist leaders. He said the rally had been beyond his expectations. He was so delighted and it gave him more hope.
แฟนผมใช่ไหมผมแล้วก็เพื่อนอีกคนหนึ่งตั้ง
It all started last year when my partner, another friend, and I formed a free youth page because we wanted to create a platform for youth. At that time, in 2019, we felt like there was no political space for young people at all.
Since mid-July, protesters have been calling for the departure of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, as well as the rewriting of the constitution, the dissolution of parliament, and an end to the harassment of activists. Some protesters also seek reforms to curb the powers of the monarchy.
ด้วยระบอบประชาธิปไตยที่มีสถาบันพระมหากษัตริย์อยู่ใต้รัฐธรรมนูญอย่างแท้จริง
พอไปบวกกับ 6 ปีที่ผ่านมาทั้งเรื่องของการเมืองสิทธิเสรีภาพ
In the past 6 years, politics, freedom, human rights, and economy, everything has collapsed. So my partner advised me to take action by inviting people to protest via our page. As the Secretary General, I agreed to the idea and posted it on Facebook page, and we received very good feedback. At that time, there was no one leading the protest, so I decided to do it, which was very confusing. Even today, I still wonder how I got here.
Thepchai said his political interest began during the last round of protests, when the yellow shirts shut down Bangkok in clashes with the racial supporters of fugitive former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. For this new political battle, however, he is playing a major role. What does he really expect from this fight?
นี่เราตั้งเป้าหมายไว้แล้วว่าเราต้องการสำเร็จ3 ข้อเรียกร้อง
The Free People Movement wants to accomplish 3 things: 2 political positions and a dream. These include the government casing its harassment of the people, a new constitution based on the people's will, and the dissolution of the parliament. No matter what happens, we want no more coups d'etat, and we reject the establishment of the nation unity. We also dream of a monarchical institution that is truly under the constitution.
Thepchai and his boyfriend were arrested on August 26th. They are among 15 people charged with breaching internal security laws and defying an emergency decree to stop the spread of coronavirus. They were released on bail the same day and now await trial.
So that Kun Thatchai Prempraphaikit, one of the protest leaders who coming out to advocate for LGBT rights. So LGBT rights, the right of the students and the right of young people, it seems they care very much on personal identity politics. And do you think this will change political atmosphere in Thailand?
The thing is like apart from, without the demonstration, this kind of movement has been going on for some time already. And of course, like when we have this kind of political demonstration, so then it provides another open space for these minority groups in order to voice out their concerns, self-identity, and their positioning in the society. So then it is just another opportunity for them to to put themselves on the stage.
So what kind of message do you think is being sent out to the powers that be, especially the Prime Minister?
The thing is like when we have the demonstration, it's always come up with some demands and some kind of trying to explain their feelings, their rational way of thinking of coming out into the demonstration. So then the most important thing right now to move on, to escalate. People like the word escalation, and of course, like for me, I think the escalation right now is the capability to listen. Many people concerned about like what people will talk about, what the Prime Minister or the government will talk about, what the demonstrators will talk about. But I think the escalation of this phenomenon requires the capability to listen. Let me explain, elaborate more of what it means by the listening. The thing is like if you see the movement of the government in the past few weeks, and especially today when the authority allowed people to enter Sanam Luang area, or even to get inside Thammasat University without without resistance. This is the message that okay, we let you do it, we allowed you to do it. So then when people step backward and just provide you some space, this is the time that you have to listen. What to listen is to listen to yourself of what exactly the intention that we organized the demonstration in the first place. Very often when we organize a demonstration and we move on with so many circumstances, we get lost in between of really our intention to begin these activities in the first hand. Let me give you the example of the demonstration of 2010. Actually, the first demand, first and only demand, is to request the government to dissolve the parliament. And then when the violence situation occurred, a lot of losses and all that, the anger, hatred, and fear take the place. And then the request or the intention that we wanted in the first hand was totally disappeared. At the beginning of this demonstration, we talk about trying to stop the how you call that, the human rights violation by the government, trying to draft a new constitution and want to have the elected the free and fair elected government. And I hope that we have to listen to ourselves that we and ask ourselves whether we still want those things to happen.
In fact, if those three demands, the original demands, have been met earlier, then things would have come this far, right?
That's right, and then that's the thing. This is what the demonstrators have to listen, and of course listen to the activity, the reaction of the government or of the authority, and listen to the feeling that they want by themselves. But for the government, what they have to listen, like you said, like you mentioned earlier, if they really listen, so then try to do something with those demands, right? Right now, to amend the constitution, I think is still the major key to get out of this conflicted lockup. So then, without constitution amendment, without the new drafting of the constitution, we still go on like this. And I think to go on like this is very exhausting. I'm not sure how to speak, how to say that in English, but in Thai we call "ยื้อจนย้วย," which means that you drag it on until it's totally broken down. You know, so don't
fix it while you can, right?
Don't try to reach that point, because when we drag it into the point when everyone is exhausted, no resources to fix things any longer, then the possible solution right now might no longer available in the future. So right now the alternative and the possible solution is still available. Use it right now.
So fix it while you still can.
That's right. That's right.
So as a peace advocate, I hope that you still are optimistic that the whole thing will end peacefully.
Of course, and the thing is, like, I'm not too ambitious on that. There are so many movements in this period of time in several other countries that we can reach into the transition, the social transition without any violence. So I still hope that it's possible.
Okay, so thank you very much for your view and your assessment of this protest and what should be further implication on Thai society. So that brings us to the end of this special ThaiPBS World Tonight special edition. We keep you updated on the big protest today at Sanam Luang, and we will be back to have more reports about the development at Sanam Luang area later tonight. And thank you very much for watching us, and bye for now.
See you.